Welcome, y'all. Welcome to another edition of the Southern Comfort Podcast. I'm your co-host, Big Rich.
Kevin Harris.
We appreciate you guys for joining. Once again, this is a joint venture between Kev and I, after our many mornings of just talking shit on the phones.
Which we still do.
We decided to take this show on the road and give you guys a glimpse into what we try to do, what we hope to do, which is make your life a little bit better by electing decent people out there in this world, be it on a local level, on a national level.
Well, you said, that's funny because you said electing decent people. You didn't really say a party. Would you ever work for a Republican?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I haven't found one yet. I don't preclude that I never would, because in a lot of, when you do the public affairs, which I guess is something we'll talk about at some point, when you do the public affairs side of what we're doing, you have Democratic and Republican clients, and I've only ever voted for one Republican in life. I voted for Bob Riley for governor in Alabama. Yeah. So but I mean I don't know.
I don't think I've ever voted for a Republican. I may vote for myself when I run.
Are you a Republican?
And I'll probably run as a Republican.
Wow, okay.
Well, luckily my wife does not actually listen to the episode because she's going to be like, babe. But why not? I've always thought that would be a strategic thing to do, run as a Republican.
Well, but a lot of folks do, right? Have made that calculation because it could be a faster pathway for advancement.
I just want to do some
good.
If
you do that.
If I ran, I would. I mean, I always want to do good, but if I were to throw my name in the hat, right? Like,
and you think you're gonna be able to do it from on that side? Do some good.
I always would just say, who gonna come at me?
Yeah, but then you just setting yourself up to be just one of them people that just sitting in Congress. You just there to make a point.
Well,
you might be viral, but you don't move no bills.
I wouldn't be running for Congress.
Okay, then what you gonna run for?
It would be local.
Either way,
it'd be local.
You can not pass bills locally too.
That's also true. So, I mean, then I just be just part of the status quo, not passing anything.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I could ever be on that side in that way, but I would like to believe that there are some Republicans I know personally where if they ran,
you would support them.
I would be inclined to be supportive of them, but it would have to be a very special situation though for where I'm, because it's just gotten so polarized now, and they really get into some stuff on that side that I just kind of can't vibe with, despite my times of frustration with this party. So, but in Florida, independents are like a real thing. They've not really found a lot of electoral success, but in terms of registrations, it's there. And I have thought about just changing my registration to independent, but I don't know.
And that also varies depending on the state you're in and how they, conduct their primaries. And
we have closed ones in Florida. So it'll be interesting. It's a couple people looking at that could make some well-financed bids for independent.
But see, if you're independent, it would be difficult. It's more difficult for you to raise money because.
But that's what I'm saying. This guy self-financed.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what that could mean. But
like a white.
He is. I think he's actually Latino. I think. But but I don't know, because we talked a little bit about this on the last episode, and we talked a little bit about this throughout the show. But like, voters of color, particularly black voters, are more conservative than how we vote. Sometimes we might look like we vote a straight Democratic line, but when you actually start talking to us, you see some conservatisms, particularly in the South. And a lot of we were talking about black men in particular. A lot of them are voting Republican. The majority still are not, but relative to how much success the Republicans have had in recent years, they are getting more traction now. And I wonder how many people are having the same thought that I'm having, like, I wonder if I could vote for a Republican.
If the right one came along.
Yeah.
You know, if the right one came along. And there are some right ones that just have never crossed my voting path, right? Like,
yeah. Now I have left the ballot unchecked because I didn't want to vote for the Democrat. I have done that. Now I wouldn't do that though. The only time I did it because I knew the Democrat was also going to lose. I didn't want to vote for him. And I could say who it is. Like in Florida, I've never voted for a Democrat for governor. I've just always left it blank because I didn't like the candidates, and I also knew they were going to lose. But if it was a close race, I would have held my nose and voted for him. But I have left it blank before.
There have been some instances where I've written in a candidate on multiple occasions. I actually do a write-in
on every ballot. There's at least one where you write. Who you write in? Your name?
I've written my name in on some, yes. I've written Christian in, of course.
Andre 3000?
No, I've written in.
You saving that for this year?
No, I would never put him on the ballot. I need him to focus on music.
Remain pure from this right? Foolishness.
Give me my love through music and a flute and a piano.
Yeah.
I've written in Shirley Franklin.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I've written in Maynard Jackson. I've written in my wife.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
when I know for a fact that the person writing ain't about shit, I do not want to give them my vote.
Yeah, but I still feel, compelled to vote. I don't ever not vote. I don't miss an election. Right. But if I ain't rocking with everybody on that ballot, I just vote for the stuff that I want to vote for, and I leave it blank. And you know how you turn the ballot in, and it's like, are you sure that I'm like, yes, it's intentional. I know I saw it. It's blank. I don't want to vote for either. None of the above.
But when you look me up in that voter database, you will not see that I missed the election.
That I missed any election. Don't mean I voted for everybody on the ballot, but I was there.
Oh, man. So, I think we're going to continue our conversation on the last episode. We kind of talked about why Harris lost, but there was a little nugget that we dropped in there regarding sort of the Obama coalition. Is Obama and his namesake, or even, his presence, still effective when it comes to national politics, and sometimes even right now we're entering the midterms. Can he still have an impact on the midterm election? So I want to kind of jump there. And one of the things in particular, when we talk about the Obama coalition, in the Harris race, you saw that a lot of former Obama operatives or people who worked in his administration or consultants that we talk about are still the ones that kind of get majority of the bidding when it comes to working on campaigns, be it on a national level, even being on a statewide level, right? And so you and I have kind of harped on it before on this podcast. We definitely harped on it in our just personal conversations. Anytime an article comes out, in particular, I'm referencing an article that came out, was it Politico? Huffington Post?
I feel like I saw it in a couple, but actually it was NBC News is why I remember seeing it first. Yeah.
Just about how the Obama consultants or people who were served on his campaign are pretty much monopolizing sort of campaign strategy. And this is why you're kind of getting the same cookie cutter results and messaging and tactics when it comes to campaigns. And it can also point to a lot of reasons why we continue to lose.
I think that it's as one of those proud Obama alums. I think that what the article was trying to do, it raised a good point, but I think it misses it basically misses the mark, right? Like, the Obama people are still working and are still successful. Well, it's because we were good. That's what happens when you have a successful 2-term presidency. The people that were a part of that and that worked on that, they tend to have some longevity for a while. In terms of what they're able to do politically and as operatives. But to just look at the Obama people is too narrow. But it does get at a question, though, that we've talked a lot about, which is that the consulting class in general is very insular. Like, one of the things we talk about, as small business owners, is that everybody knows in the party it's the same 4 or 5 firms that get all of the work. Most of them are not diverse at all. And they kind of just have a monopoly of sorts. And so you get the same work. And of course, I won't say the consultant's name, but he's a fairly well-known one. And I remember we were all on this call, and he starts talking, and you can tell people on his team were texting him and trying to get a hold of him. But the guy spent about 15 minutes talking about the wrong race. Didn't even know what race he was on or which race he was doing, and was just saying the same stuff. I'm going to tell them the same stuff that I'm going to tell them. And it just becomes about checking a box and just churning out a product, and not about the really actually looking at these races and what we're putting together. And so I think the whole consulting class needs to be shaken up. It needs some fresh blood, but it is very difficult to break through. It is very difficult to get at that table, and to become one of those firms. But once you're there, you get to sit there for 30 or 40 years.
And no matter the outcome, win or lose, right?
Win or lose.
I can point to probably the same person you talk about. Probably lost all
we might have been on that race together. Yeah, maybe.
And so I think it speaks to a fascinating paradigm that we're in, right? Like, the article reveals that tension that you saw with the Democratic Party and sort of the Harris campaign, and sort of colliding in terms of that conflict of minority consultants, being more at the table to have bring more value to the candidate and the strategy, especially when it came to messaging, and also on the ground turnout evidence, right? I'll be the first to tell you cannot win a campaign if you do not have a machine on the ground that's there talking to voters. Now, is door knocking, does it still work how it did in previous campaigns? Absolutely not. Going door to door in neighborhoods or high propensity voters, right? That does not persuade people the way it once was, because people don't want you coming on their doorstep. Like, what are you doing here? I myself want to see someone knock on my door, but I'm not going to be receptive to it.
Leave it.
Yes, leave it right there.
Just leave it right there. Thank you. Set it down.
But voters do want to see that.
They want to see
you trying.
Yeah, they want to see engagement. They want to feel like something is happening on the ground. That is important. And I think we know this too. Like, even this happens every campaign. I don't want to make it sound like it's unique just to Kamala Harris's, but like, we know folks on that campaign that were consultants of color who knew all these different things about the data that's been confirmed now. And
right.
They're not surprised by it. They said things at the time to the powers that be. But part of when we talk about the challenges, right, of it back, it's not just the electorate and what's happening with the electorate. We also got to look at how, as a party, we conduct elections and how we develop strategy. And the truth is, the groups that we are losing ground with, those groups are not equally representative of the consulting class that actually makes it to the table to actually make the decisions about how those groups are communicated with and engaged. And particularly like field operatives, like, I mean, they don't, of any color, they don't really get to the table in the same way that the folks on the media or the messaging side do. And on the media and the messaging side, like, it's still, it does not look like the electorate that we are trying to build a coalition around. So I think it's just a little bit of a lazy analysis to try to lay it all at the feet of Obama people. That sounds like somebody that just has an axe to grind.
Well, I mean, it's funny because it's just almost like a succession problem.
Right.
Right. In the past, the Obama people talked about Clinton operatives who were still occupying that space. And now it's Obama operatives are now occupying that space. Some of them actually kind of overlap. They were Clinton and they were Obama.
Yeah.
And now, you know, they're still kind of overlapping that space.
Yeah.
But it speaks to sort of like the party struggling with like genuine leadership renewal.
Yeah.
Sorts. You're just shuffling around that same, you know, your same generational cohorts.
Yeah.
And moving the pieces.
Yeah.
And we are getting the same losing results, right? Like, and we haven't had a consistent, win when it comes to Democrat politics, right? Like, we can speak to Georgia, who we thought were on the, you know, the uptick when it came to winning Ossoff and Warnock, and then Warnock again for the reelection, and then again with Biden, but then it fell off this past 2024 cycle. We kind of retreated and lost by a larger number than we had even seen. And so now I guess the critique would be, if you think about it, the Obama coalition has essentially become like the Trump coalition.
Well, I mean, it's basically, I think that could be true, especially in the sense that, like, it's kind of like Trump took the same playbook and is doing a better job of making that politics work for him in these current elections the same way Obama did.
Yeah,
right. I mean that's true. And so you got to, and how much of that is, I mean, both of them are incredibly effective, like, messengers too, right? So, like, even with Obama, and, you know, one of my heroes is David Axelrod, but, like, even with, like, a candidate with Obama, like Obama, I think even David Axelrod would tell you that, like, he's just a talented messenger on himself.
Right.
And a lot of your job as a consultant is just to get the hell out of the way. You know what I mean? It's not that the team came up with these things. Some of that stuff is just innate to his political talent and abilities. And I think a lot of that is true for Donald Trump in the way that he communicates, right, in this moment. And so maybe those wins, because we had such talented candidates and communicators, it maybe masked the fact that maybe as consultants we were doing maybe mediocre at best in terms of what we were putting out. We just had a really good product that overcompensated for it. I don't know.
So I think we touched on it in the last episode about the shift in younger voters, right? In 08 and 12, Obama took those younger voters and shifted them and had them voting Democrat. He took some young Republicans who could have been leaning Republicans and voted for
who grew up in Republican households.
Who grew up in Republican households,
I remember this in Iowa. Those kids would be in our field offices and they would be like, "Yeah, my dad and mom, they're voting for McCain, but they like Obama,
right?
And they love that I'm here,
right?
Yeah, that was
the thing.
And
now, you know, it is now shifted back the other way.
Yeah,
right. Some younger voters are now voting for Trump.
Yeah, and
they're leaning towards that way.
A lot of them are.
And so that's what I say. It's ironically that coalition is now shifting.
Yeah.
And so now I think now that we're getting ready to enter a new era where in 2028 for the presidential primary, you're going to have a slew of candidates on both sides, right? Who knows what that true identity is going to rise out of that, right? Who knows if there's going to be a dark horse that becomes, that occupies and captures a younger and invigorates a younger voter to catapult them to becoming either the Republican nominee or the Democratic nominee. The question is going to be, does a new crop of consultants rise out of that as well?
Well, but that's usually how it happens, right? That's usually how it happens. There's you get attached to some outsider, some upstart, and then suddenly you get invited to the table, the big table in DC. They never would have put you there to begin with, but then you went out and won this outsider race, right? And so you talked about Georgia and some of the recent successes we've had here. What will be interesting to see is that, okay, was there a lot of homegrown talent that got to move up as well? And you and I both know this too, as consultants too. Whether it's your race or your geography, the party will pigeonhole you real, quick, right? Like you can do, they'll make you a specialist and say, well, you do it. And this happens with me, right? Like I would say the majority of my work comes from the Midwest and the South, right? So I've gotten here recently the chance to do a lot more work in like Massachusetts. And I was very proud of that because it's difficult to get them to let me do a race in Massachusetts, right? Or even if I was doing a congressional majority black congressional district in New York, they'll just be like, well, most of your races are in Georgia or in the South, and we don't know if you can help with this race in New York or whatever the case may be, right? So so it would be interesting to see that where we are having successes like Georgia, are those operatives and those people getting the opportunity to break through and really sit at that broader table, because we do need more diversity there, not just in terms of race and gender, but we need geographical diversity as well. Folks who just don't look at campaigns and politics just one way.
Well, I think again, one of the first we're going to see is Iowa's no longer.
You don't miss an opportunity to talk about it, and it's been settled for so long now that they not gonna be number one anymore. And I don't understand.
We gain new voters. We gain new listeners to this podcast every week, and I need for them to understand. They just may not be aware that South Carolina is now the first primary state when it comes to, and it's.
So why you couldn't just say that? Why you had to say Iowa? Why you couldn't just say because South Carolina's number one?
You have to inform them, right? You don't want misinformation to get out there. Iowa was once a first primary state. Okay. Once.
It was a caucus.
Oh, you're right.
Never the first primary state.
And thank you for correcting me.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
Caucus.
Okay.
They caucused.
Okay. All right.
To do some things that nobody really cared because.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
It was not representative of this entire country.
Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm. Right. Like, how would you feel if somebody just said, oh, I made you alligator for dinner. Here you go.
I live in Florida. That's very plausible.
But did you want alligator? Did they even ask you if you wanted? No. We don't like Iowa.
Okay, just say that. Why are we talking about gators and all this other stuff?
You brought up Iowa. I
did not. I don't bring up Iowa, actually. You bring up Iowa. Okay. All right.
South Carolina.
And you could have just said it just that way.
No. Do we still consider, I don't think Obama considers himself, I don't think he ever wanted to consider himself the savior for Democrat politics.
His whole politics, everything he's ever said is rooted in the spirit that the biggest and best job you can have is citizen. And from communal organizing all the way through to how he organized his campaign, organized his administration, it was always about bringing in the voices of people into government, and using that as your power to push through the bull to get things done. So he's never seen himself at that, and he didn't particularly do party politics well, right? Like we ran against the party. That's how we got the nomination and won.
Right.
And then even when he was president, he wasn't like this party building kind of president. That's never been that was never his thing or his approach. And so I think he's active and engaged now because he obviously cares about the direction of the country, and he understands that when Democrats lose elections, there are real consequences to that. But you know, whether it's the Obama consultants or where he ultimately fits in all of this, you know, to that line of thinking that like, okay, the election's close or whatever, let's just put Obama back out there. Even that as a strategy sort of indicates old kind of strategy that we need to move away from. But I don't think that that's just Obama consultants and Obama people that are looking at that and saying that. So we got to figure out our stride here. And I got to imagine like we had to go through something like this before in the 80s, man, when we lost 3 straight national elections, right? We had to, you know, we lost, we lost, 3 straight elections, 80, 84, and 88. Reagan. So that was Reagan, and then it went to Bush. And one of the, you know, tragedies of Kamala not winning is that we haven't had a chance to do a run like that since FDR. And we had a 1 term of Biden, and we could have had 2 terms of Kamala. Imagine what could have happened with the Supreme Court. Imagine how the good work that Joe Biden did with judges, how that would have continued. The monumental investments that he made in climate, we would have been able to protect that and cement it and really shifted it for a generation had she won that election. And we missed out on we just missed out on a big opportunity to really run it back. But that's just not where people's head was, and as a party, we just didn't really rise to the moment in the way that that we should have. And the data makes that clear because, you know, these were this is like being on the varsity and the junior varsity starts beating you, right? Like these were votes that we used to win and win handily, and we lost some serious ground.
So let me ask you this, in terms of who you would say, well, the party one lacks new voices capable of helping rebuild a party. Who do you see as a new voice emerging out of the party? And to play on that varsity JV, is there anyone coming out of the JV that you think could carry the water? And when I say JV, someone coming off of Main Street and local politics or on the state level.
Yeah, you mean as like electeds? Ooh.
And, you know, why are we continuously looking towards electeds to be the one?
That's true, right? We talk about Warnock all the time and preacher when elected to anything, and he really, broke through, right? In a deep.
Same with Westmore.
South State, Westmore as well. Nobody really jumps out or comes to mind to me right now. We do have some talented people, but I think most of the people that I would think of are names that a lot of people already know, right? I think Josh Shapiro is a very talented messenger. I think people should really watch Ruben Gallego. I think he's going to run for president. I think he could be formidable. He could be that guy that just kind of came out of nowhere. That people had a little like Obama had a little buzz around him, and then it was like boom, this guy came out of nowhere and ended up being perfect for the moment. So you know, he's one that really kind of pops up to me. That's not as much on people's radar right now when you look at 2028 contenders, and he is a person who could remake the party in his political mold, and in doing so help to make the party relevant. You're talking about a Latino guy who appeals to the working class, has a certain kind of approach to politics and cadence, right, to how he does it. And that could be very, 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 very interesting. Very, very interesting combination. So we'll see.
Do you think that we can develop a next generation strategy fast enough to compete and effectively communicate?
Yeah, because it happens all the time. It happens all the time. I mean,
that we can create one and it, has some standing power, right? That continues and goes on.
I think politics is about moments, and politics is fleeting, right? And part of the reason it's fleeting is because of, some stuff that we said in prior episodes, right? Like, voters are very transactional.
Yeah.
Their needs, their wants, their desires shift and change, right? And so I think you always have to change with the moment and keep up with the times. But I think that the gist of what I hear, the gist of what you're asking is, are Democrats capable of running an election about the future, right? Like, our last few elections have been about the past, and the data, that we talked about shows that people have moved on.
Yeah.
That a lot of the stuff and ways in which we would do things and reach them and engage them and how we would talk to them, that's not where they are anymore.
Well, no, in the data, I think right now, particularly younger voters, right? Like, when we say younger voters, I think anybody that is, I would say, 35 and under.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're letting you know, like, we understand that we're still kind of holding on to feelings of the past, not just policies of the past, but feelings of the past.
Yeah.
And, with this new gender appropriation, right? Like, we are trying to move forward and towards better and brighter days.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't seem to break that stem right there, or that stigma. And we are allowing the older generation to still, like, grip and hold on to what once was. So, I do question. I myself look at this new class of leaders that we're trying to bring in, and I'm always asking them, what do they want to see done differently with their campaign? I'm also asking myself, what can we do to kind of challenge that envelope, especially when it comes to digital ads and how we kind of message and deliver the candidate to the voting public. Right? I do want to try things risky, but of course, everything comes with a cost. And a lot of things fail and flop. Like, we've looked at a lot of new political ads for statewide candidates, and we
recently,
we're critiquing them left and right. It's yes,
it's not, and you know what they look like, and we're here to be analysts, even of, like, our own industry, but it looks like what you get when you just go hire one of those big firms.
Yeah.
And they just kind of phone it in.
Particularly,
I'm gonna give you basically the same ad that I gave 15 other races, and
But it's always interesting.
Insert picture of Trump and Elon Musk with a chainsaw, and we're gonna talk.
But it's always interesting when it's a candidate of color.
Yeah.
And how they try to take the safe road, and you're a safe black.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or more palatable.
Yeah.
Person of color.
Yeah. Yeah.
To the electorate.
Yeah.
And you take, stereotypes.
Yes.
And you mix them with, messaging, and it falls short and falls flat.
It falls, it does. It falls short. It falls flat, even with people that should be your base. Right. And the reason for that is because it's the lack of authenticity in it. Right.
Yeah.
Part of the reason why Donald Trump has had some of the success he's had with minority voters, they talk about, well, I just think he's authentic. I think he just says what he thinks. they don't even like everything that he's saying or agree with it or think he's even going to do it. They fully understand the many ways in which he's inept, right? But they still, there's a fondness for it too, because there's some authenticity there. And Democrats have to get back comfortable being authentic and just giving direct answers to questions, even when they are hard. And, when we look at, we got beat up pretty bad around messaging around DEI, messaging around rights and protections for the transgender community, and stuff like that. And part of it is because we don't talk about any of that in a particularly convincing way to either side of that issue. And so we've got to get better and more comfortable with our positions, even if folks might not agree with it.
Well, can we get some organization going underneath this big tent? Time will tell. Can we get some? Well, we will see new blood when it comes to the consulting class in this upcoming presidential primary, as well as, Senate races. Not everybody can work as many races that they think they can, and it kind of dilutes the work that's being put out there.
Yeah.
So we're going to close out this episode. We appreciate you guys for listening, but we definitely want to, as we do always, close it out with the Mamba moment. I actually don't have anybody in mind that comes to top right now. You?
I don't. Not really.
Really?
No, I don't. Not really.
Yeah, it's all quiet on this front.
It's all, and it's not to say that people aren't doing great things.
Not everybody.
I'm sure they, people are out there being awesome and winning.
Not everybody will have a moment, right? Like,
yeah.
There's only one Kobe.
There's only one Kobe.
Just like there's only one MJ.
There's only one MJ. That's true.
Yeah, right.
That's
so.
True.
Again, we appreciate you guys for listening. Always subscribe, please. Check us out. YouTube channel is @Maroon Bison. I don't know my IG handle, but personally,
you finally gave up.
I just gave up. It'll be in the text somewhere.
Yes.
But until then, see you guys next week.
Peace.
Peace.
Bye.